This is TWiT.
You had sent to me a note about George Lucas's mandate to Sam Shaw. What was that?
I don't want any sound in this movie that has ever been used before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so everything was created specifically for the movie, which was pretty unique at the time because most people were using sound effects libraries, and George would not have that. So everything has to be created new. So it was a first in many, many different ways, and that was certainly one of the ways that that the sound of Star Wars was unique.
Yeah,
and it meant creating a lot of tracks in order to create environments, in order to create the entire composite sound. Up to that point, I think most films only had 10, 15, 20 sound effects tracks playing at a time. I think that was like the biggest that there ever were. Reel 1 of Star Wars had 320. It was quite a departure. Very unique.
And especially difficult given that there was nothing like Pro Tools or anything like that where you could easily have hundreds or thousands of tracks. This was all on tape machines, right?
35 millimeter mag machines. And they had to be loaded, and you could only put it. Well, we had a very large machine room, but we could only load 35 at a time. So we had to premix, and again, and premixing had not been done up until that point. I'm sure it had been done slightly, a little bit, but we had to premix all of these tracks because there's no way to play them. So we would put up as many as we would dare put up for that particular food group, and we would premix it in stereo, and then put up the next batch and the next batch and the next batch, and then create these. We created a couple of hundred 4-track stereo premixes.
What do you mean? What do you mean 4-track stereo? I mean, stereo doesn't actually mean 2 channels, but it has come to mean that, at least in the consumer world.
Yeah. If you look at the evolution of sound in motion pictures, the stereo movement started in 1953 with 4-track CinemaScope, mag, and in 1956 with 6-track TAUDAO, mag. These were composite prints that had picture and sound on them, and the sound was actually put on a magnetic stripe onto the film. So both of those formats had pretty much died by 1977. So 2 things were happening simultaneously. Dolby was working on an optical 2-track encoded system that would not be mag. It would be an optical track just on the side of the film, like most other films that had mono track. This was a 2-track stereo track. Their idea was to record, listen in 4-track, encode it into 2, and have it played back into 4.
This was the matrixing technology, sometimes called LTRT.
Correct. So that was just getting going. That started in, I think only 2 or 3 films had been done prior to Star Wars. And they weren't really done that successfully. The technology was still in its infancy, and they were improving it all the time. So while that 2-track stereo was being introduced, 6-track was also dying. And so when George said he wanted this movie to be 70 millimeter 6-track, our initial response was, okay, we'll do the TAUDAO spread, which is you do a 4-track mix and you fill in the left extra and right extra in the front speakers with material from the left and center and the right and center. That was our initial idea. So we started making 4-track premixes, which was a 3-channel mag for the across the front, and a mono mag for the surround.
Which is what, by the way, Dolby Stereo was. It was LTRT, right and left, 2-channel, but encoded, matrixed in with that was a center channel and a single surround channel, right?
Correct. But the separation between those channels was in Dolby Stereo was horrible. It was only 2 dB at the time, and we wanted discrete channels. So we went mag, we went discrete, and we started doing these 4-track stereo premixes, and that was unique at the time as well, because nobody was panning from front to back ever. And I was like, well, why not? Why can't I? So I did. I mean, there were no pan pots that were created to do that, so I would just do it with faders. So we were panning all around the room in 4-track stereo on all of these premixes, and it was rather unique. Then what happened was we could not get the low-end energy that we wanted, particularly in the opening scene when Vader's cruiser goes overhead chasing Leia's ship. I mean, that was the moment, right? And we just could not get low end happening with the technology that we're using today. Back then, that we were using Altec A4 speakers, and so the left extra, right extra. There was a Dolby consultant at the time. His name was Steve Katz. He had this idea that since we're mixing in left, center, right, and surround, and what if we don't do the Todd spread and put those in the channels 2 and 4 in the front? What if we use 2 and 4 for low frequency only? We just put in.
So this was the birth of LFE?
This was the birth of LFE, and this was called Baby. We named it Baby Boom.
Pretty appropriate for the people who were working on the movie at that time, I'd say. Yeah.
Baby Boom evolved 2 years later in Apocalypse Now, where I'm just completely blanking out here.
Yeah, I think you were thinking of Colonel Kurtz, one of the characters.
Yeah, you're right. But Walter Murch had the idea in Apocalypse Now that instead of using 2 and 4 for boom, why not take 2 and 4 and put those into as separate surrounds? So making, instead of mono, we now have stereo surrounds, and then the 6th channel, which used to be for surrounds, use that for the boom. So Apocalypse was the first movie that did a true 5.1. And that was derived from the Baby Boom.
What do you know?